Holy Gospel is written in the 25th chapter, St. Matthew, beginning at the 14th verse. Jesus said to the disciples, "For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted them his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who received the 5 talents went off at once and traded them and made 5 more talents. The same way the one who had 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' The one with 2 talents also came forward, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I've made 2 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' The one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, 'Master, I knew you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, have what is yours.' But his master replied, 'You wicked and lazy slave, you know, did you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received that which I own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even that which they have will be taken away. As for this worthless servant, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" Here ends the gospel for the day. Please be seated. Documents in federal court filed in the U.S. District Court in East Pennsylvania lists Michael Donnelly, a investment advisor, as someone who lied to 13 of his clients and stole from them over $2 million. In the documents, 2 people listed, victim A and B, ages 81 and 83, have divested and lost over $800,000. They were confident in Michael Donnelly's ability, for they had invested with him over a period of about 5 years. He kept reminding them of how their money was growing, that they could get it back at any time, and they were receiving approximately a 5.5% return. And so in 2008, they invested far more money, only to find out later when they tried to withdraw something that there was nothing there. Instead of investing the money, the man had spent the money on country club memberships, on private school for his kids, for expensive cars. Michael Donnelly received a sentence of 99 months, a little over 8.5 years, for his shenanigans, and for robbing 13 elderly out of life savings. And he's not the only weasel, was he? We remember Bernie Madoff, $648 million from 4,800 people. Robert Lunn, 20 million. Charlie Banks, 20 million. Ashai Narayan, 33 million. And Agadas Investments, 350 million. People who have been entrusted with money. People coming to them and saying, hey, this is precious stuff. I want you to invest it for me and make something more for me. Today's gospel is like that, isn't it? It's a parable, a simple parable of Jesus. He talks about having a master who had 3 people that he wanted to use as investment animals. And so he calls them. He thinks they have different abilities, so he gives one 5 talents, another 3 talents, or 2 talents, and another one 1. And he says, go out and see what you can do with my money. And talents, obviously, are money. So let's put it in the dollars and cents. Let's say there was $800,000 that the master had to invest. To the first one he gave $5 million, or $500,000. To the second, $200,000, and to the last, $100,000. Go out and see what you can do with it. The first 2 go out and they invest wisely. They hop to it and make just wise decisions all the way along. The third one is afraid. Third one just doesn't want to deal with it. And so he goes and buries it in a hole. And when the master comes back, he asks for a reckoning. And the first 2 come and tell what they've done with his investments, and he praises them. The third comes back with a bunch of excuses. He's risk adverse. He didn't want to upset the man because he knew he'd be mad if he didn't make a proper amount. What if he made a wrong decision? No, he was coming back, but he would give everything back that he had taken. And on him were leashed a lot of words, a lot of angry names. Wicked servant, just lose it. Get out of here. Let's not make too much of the parable, but there are some things that are fairly obvious about it. And they go in with these 2 services that are near the end of the year that deal with the second coming and acknowledging that we are going to be called into accountability by our master. The obvious things about the parable, the master is Jesus. The journey that is taken is the ascension that Christ is about to make. The servants are the ranked people, the ordinary people like us. The talents are blessings, money, brains, skills. Master's return is the second coming, and the master's assessment is judgment day. Those things are fairly obvious. So the question we want to ask you today is, how would you like to be Jesus' investment advisor? How would you like to do the investing with Jesus? Well, surprise, surprise. You are the investment advisors to Jesus. There are certain observations then that we make. First of all, God has given us something precious to use. They are His assets. You and I are the assets of God. Jesus said, when the Spirit comes, you will be given power from on high to take what you are, what I have given you, and use it to my glory. It's easy to get blasé and aw shucks about this and say, well, I really don't have much to give. I'm really not that talented. I'm really not that smart. And you know, to tell you the truth, there are a lot of us that just run out and bury the talents and abilities that God gave us. Now, don't be disappointed by the fact that He gave unequally. That's not the important point. Some of you have far more ability than others. Some of you are wiser, some more brilliant, some better skills. But that doesn't matter. It's what you have been given and how you make use of it that becomes really important. So that's the first observation. God has given us talents, abilities, something to invest, to barter, to enhance, to use, to grow, to develop, to increase for the glory of God. The second observation is that God expects a return on investment. Now, we don't like to hear that, do we? God expects something of us? Yeah, He does. And God is somewhat disappointed when we squander what we have, when we squander our talents, our blessings, our brains, and resources, and just let them lie fallow. These are important things. These are riches. These are valuable. And God expects a return on investment. The people don't use the talents wisely are not usually dumb people. As a matter of fact, these investment advisors were very intelligent people. Bernie Madoff was not dumb. He just used his talents for the wrong thing. He squandered what God gave him. And we do that also. So the second thing to note, an observation, is God expects a return on what He gave us. The third observation is the return of investment is for the benefit of our client. We are here to serve God's purposes, aren't we? Isn't that our task? Our purpose is not just to send our kids to private school, buy yachts and memberships in a country club. Nothing inherently wrong with those, but that's not our primary purpose in life. Our purpose is just not to take up space, to build bigger barns to store crops in, to line our pockets with money. Not bad things, but not our purpose. Rather, we are given to find time for worship, to love our neighbors, to focus on our spiritual gifts, to be kind and helpful, to demonstrate hospitality. And those are just some of the investments we can make that yield back big returns. The story shows two kinds of investment strategy. One is to go out and take a risk and trade and make wise decisions. The other is simply to dig a hole and bury all that we have in it. Third person stands out as someone that does not serve the purpose of the master. So again, we ask you, what are you doing with Jesus' investment, God's investment in you? Because I know you all have talents. I know most of you very well. We can take our blessings, our attributes, and put them on a shelf and use them only when it's convenient for us. Or you can make a list of those things in which you can invest the time and energy and skills in somebody else. We can live in a theocracy world or an egocentric. We can live in God's world or we live totally in ours. We can trade or we can be afraid. We can display God's investment or bury it in a hole. We can risk or we can run. But the stunning message today is that someday Christ will come and ask for some kind of accounting and say, what have you done with all the blessings that I've given you? Amen.